Thank you. Thank you for the very kind and generous introduction. President Harris, Board of Trustees, to the parents of the class of 2023, you are the true unsung heroes of today. Faculty, staff, and of course to you, class of 2023, congratulations. Today is your day. I also wanted to thank my family who are here with me today. Thank you for being there with me and for me every other day. To my dear friend, Nelson, who dropped everything to be here with us today, thank you. If you see a very well-dressed, tall, light-skinned African-American man with cornrows, that's Nelson. Stop and take a picture with him. You'll be glad you did. I also want to thank my host parents, Doug and Dixie Hansen, for making my time at Grinnell that much more memorable. Thank you all. Of all the blessings and honors I've been fortunate to receive in my life thus far, being your commencement speaker today stands out above all. I am deeply honored to be with you all today for your graduation from one of the finest institutions in the world. And by the way, before I go any further, I must just clarify that at no point in my speech did I use ChatGPT. This is all me, authentically me. So just wanted to get that out of the way. I've spent the last few weeks and months thinking about, what do I want to say today? What will be helpful to such a bright and smart group of people? And I found myself arriving at an interesting place, reflecting on my own life. Steve Jobs once said that the thing about life is that you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And as I've reflected on my life over the last couple of weeks, I've connected a few dots that, although unknown to me at the time, acted as guiding principles for my life. Today, I'm going to share a few of these with you in the hopes that they can guide you as well as they did me. The trajectory of my life was set a long time before I came into this world. I was born in Uganda on the same day my grandfather was buried. Perhaps this is one of the reasons I was given his name. In many ways, he was the last of a privileged and wealthy lineage. This was a man who in 1960s colonial Uganda was able to gain admission to Oxford University in the United Kingdom, the same country that was colonizing Uganda at the time. During his time at Oxford, he would marry my grandmother, a lady who, like my grandfather, would be one of the last of an even wealthier and more privileged lineage. Together, my grandparents were part of a generation of aristocratic Ugandans who inherited great fortunes and even greater names, but as life would have it, would ultimately pass down very little. At the tail end of these two once great lineages was my father, the last born of 5 boys, a position that didn't wield many natural advantages. In fact, his life would be filled with great adversity. Adversity from the outside world, as a newly independent Uganda experienced its fair share of civil wars and political instability, and adversity at home, constantly bullied and mistreated by his older brothers, the very people whose sole responsibility it was to protect him. The world can be a very unfair place sometimes. Good people lose and bad people win all the time. This is a lesson my father would go on to learn several times over. What are the roles and responsibilities of an individual when society at large exhibits the worst of itself? When society only serves to be a barrier to progress, how much can the micro influence the macro? How can an individual rise and thrive against so much hate and despair, against so much adversity? When it was his turn to be a parent, these are the experiences that shaped how he and my mother would raise my brothers and I, how they would instill values in us that would shape the trajectories of our own lives. 7 years ago, I sat where you all sit today, filled with great excitement about what was next, but also great fear about how it will all play out, and what role I would have, if any, in bending my future to my will. In the years since my graduation, I have constantly fallen back on the lessons I learned from my parents growing up. And having had the chance to reflect deeply on them, I thought I'd share 5 of the most important ones with you today in the hopes that they provide some value to you as you take your next steps. Just 5, no more. First lesson, embrace working hard, and work hard all the time. I know that sounds a bit cliche, but in whatever you choose to do, work as hard at it as you can. There is no substitute for hard work. I've seen firsthand the difference this makes. Working hard and seeing my parents, who are self-employed, raising 3 boys, and from learning from my co-founder, Majid, who I work with every day, one of the hardest working people I know. At the various stages of starting and growing our company, Chipper, we've often done our best work when we work the hardest. Working hard will always set you apart. Don't take it for granted. Lesson number 2, do things that matter because they matter, not because success is guaranteed. The world desperately needs Grinnellians to do things that matter, to tackle the hardest problems, not just because success is guaranteed, but because they're important. As a Grinnellian, it is your responsibility to move issues of deep purpose and responsibility beyond conversation into tangible action, to move the abstract into reality, and to do so knowing that even if you fail, the true reward lies in the journey and not the destination. Lesson number 3, perseverance is a superpower. Always keep moving forward. Progress for the sake of progress is not guaranteed. In fact, we've seen time and time again that humanity is quite capable of regressing. Example number 1, we landed on the moon in 1969, before Wi-Fi was invented. But fast forward to today, and we don't have the ability to do that again. How is that possible? Here's another example. 1900 years ago, the Romans, using the technology of their time, built the Colosseum. And they did so in a period of 7 years. But fast forward to today, and they can't do it again. 4,500 years ago, the Egyptians built the pyramids, one of the greatest engineering marvels of our time. But a few thousand years later, they forgot how to. Sometimes the hardest thing about progress isn't achieving it, it's preserving it. This is something I've wrestled with personally. How is it that my own grandfather in 1960 in Uganda could somehow graduate from Oxford University, but fast forward 7 years later, and his direct descendants who live in a safer, more prosperous world are unable to even graduate from high school? That is the opposite of progress. What are the roles and responsibilities of the individual? Do not rest on your laurels. Always keep moving forward and fight fiercely to preserve progress that others gave so much for. There is no excuse for going in the wrong direction. Lesson number 4, sometimes it's okay to do things alone. Sometimes it'll happen so that the path that you take that will take you the farthest is a path that you must travel on your own, and that seems the loneliest. Don't let this deter you. Dare greatly and have faith in your ability to do remarkable things. It is quite likely that the lonely path is the path on which you'll discover the true heights of your talents and the true depths of your courage. As Grinnellians, we're not afraid to forge our own paths. Lean into that. Life will sometimes want to beat you into submission, but fight back. Fight back like hell. And the 5th and final lesson that I want to share with you all today is around kindness and generosity. Of all the things I know for certain in my life, one of them is that I'm only here because countless others have bent backwards for me multiple times. Be generous to others, especially when it feels like you don't have enough for yourself. Be kind to everyone and always make room for others at your table. Above all else, this is what makes us human, to be because others are. I will close off my remarks today by dedicating this incredible honor of being here with you today to a few people who have shaped my life. To my mother, who has been the rock of our family, and to my father, who I admire more than anyone else. Thank you for sacrificing everything for me. To my brothers, Teffer and Noah, I cherish the bonds of our brotherhood. To Majid, who could not be here today, thank you for taking a chance on me and for never giving up on me. To my best friends, Farah, who is watching this from halfway across the world, and Agava, who has grown up with me, and many others out there, I'm lucky to have you all in my life. And to my oldest friend, Joseph, who we lost before we even knew what it meant to lose someone. You live on forever in my heart. And to you, Nahum, as you climb your mountain, never forget that the mark of a great mind is to entertain an idea that you do not agree with. I love you all dearly. This perhaps is my last message to you all. Choose the people in your life wisely and love them fiercely. Life is too short for anything less. Go forth, Grinnellians. Thank you.